Hello, welcome to the next session of CSS. Now we're going to talk about CSS selectors. Okay, so remember last session we talked a little bit about how we use CSS and its basic syntax. The key major part within the syntax is called a selector. Now selector allows us to identify which tag to apply the CSS style on. HTML has many tags, and to know which tag we are going to use for our styling and which style is going to be used for which particular tag is quite important. How do we do that? Let's go and see an example and VS Code, and I will show you. So inside my VS Code, this is the file that we created for our previous code. I just copied the same code here. So this will shows us that okay, this is our simple thing. If I save it and go back and run it somewhere around here, where is it, my code? Here it is. So this is now I have a file that's basically running, and so here's my output. So basically we get the simple thing. So if I come back here in my code and I just hide these issues with my VS Code. So let me just say VS6 lesson 6 is supposed to be selectors. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about CSS selectors. So CSS selectors basically mean these things. So remember we created an h1 tag. So this is the heading 1 tag. This heading 1 tag specifies that I have a heading in my page, then I have a paragraph in my page. Then when we use CSS, we use these same tags as the style name. So here paragraph becomes the style name, here h1 becomes the style name. This is basically what we refer to as a selector, as simple as that. So typically if we go and define the CSS syntax, this is how we say. We use something called a selector, then we say block start, block close, we specify property, and then use a colon, and then we use it something called a value and a block close. So this is typically CSS syntax. So this is how we say my CSS syntax is going to be used. Okay, so I can say, okay, here's my CSS SYN syntax. So this is my CSS syntax. Don't worry, I've used a comment. I will talk more about comments later on. So basically now it won't be executed, this line. So this is my CSS selector. So if I comment this as well, so what this selector means, that this is my selector. Now there are 2 to 3 different types of ways we define selectors. Let me go into it. But we start a block and then we start CSS properties. Then if I'm going to apply on h2, I apply an h1, I apply h1. So in this case, let me just say how if I for example have another tag. So if I can use for example h2, and I can say welcome to CSS for DUMMIS, dummies. So this is my another tag here. Well, how about if I use h3 again here, and I can say CSS course for absolute beginner. So this becomes my tagline. So I've used the 3 tags here. Then I specified a BR tag here, or maybe I can specify an HR for a horizontal ruler. Then I have a paragraph tags here. Okay, so within this paragraph tag I have specified certain text here, and then I can use this text multiple different times, and for example control C, and then I can have control V as another paragraph tag. Okay, and let me just align it properly. So now note what we have multiple different tags in our code. If I go and view it, this is what basically it looks like. We have a simple heading which is CSS6, we have heading 2, heading 3, and a paragraph tag being duplicated. Now at the same time we can come back here and we can say if I duplicate this paragraph tag one more time, and if I come, or let's just not even duplicate it to make things even more interesting. Let's just say I create another paragraph tag called P, and I can say that here we are learning about CSS selectors. Okay, and then I can say there are 3 types of CSS selectors. Okay, SELECTORS selectors, control S. So now we saved it, go back here, we get this text here. Wonderful, excellent. How do we differentiate now? Now see what's happening. Okay, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3 all have exactly same style. Heading 2, heading 3 they don't have. Okay, so this is where selectors come into play, because we have only specified here that my CSS is to be applied on h1 and h2. So if I come here, oops, okay, my style is going to be applied on paragraph tag, and then my style is going to be applied on h1. These are 2 tags that are currently being used to apply the CSS style. The styles have not been applied on h2 and h3. Why not? Because there is no tags here. So this is what selectors initially basically mean. So we have to write the selector that okay, now I want a style on a CSS2, and then I can have a different style for it. So for example, I specify some style for it, Control S. So now what I've done is, now I've told my CSS that apply style on H2, and this is my style. Then I can go ahead and I can say H3, this becomes my selector, and I can say, okay, here's H3 and apply certain styles to it. So this is, styles are now applied to this tag. Control S, go back, and now you can see that all three tags have a specific style applied to it. Okay, so this is something that we do with respect to selectors. So these, what basically we mean selector is, or how we apply style on a CSS, is very simple logic that you need to understand. Write the tag name that you want to apply style on and give the tag name, style. That's it. So if you have a tag, this is HTML, we just create a simple HTML structuring. Then we, in CSS, within the style tag, in our head, we specify the selector. The selector is actually the tag name itself. So we say H2 is the tag name, H3 is the tag name, paragraph is the tag name. That's it. This is how we apply the style. The second way is that, what if I want to apply a different style on different paragraph tags? Currently what's happening is that the same style has been applied on all three paragraph tags. Okay, so paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3 all appear exactly same. What if I don't want that? Okay, I said I don't want this to appear. I want each paragraph to look different from each other. Okay, so what to do that? For example, in this case, if I have H2, H2, what if I make this as H1? Okay, so if this becomes H1, now what happens is that both these have exactly same thing. What if I want diffs to H1, this one to be H1 but have a different style to it? Because we already have something called H2, so it becomes a lot easier for us, for in terms of heading, to just make it H2 and then customize it, and it becomes same. So now H2 is there. The beauty here is that because we have used style above in my header, if I come down here after this paragraph, for example, and I use H2 again, and I say types of CSS selectors, Control S. So I gave a subheading. Come here, see this style is already applied. Types of CSS. Now this H2, both have exactly same. So now I have defined the style for it, but now I want a different style for my paragraphs. How do I do that? This is where the class comes into play. So in this case, I say this CSS, and I use a class, and then I can say that let's just use something called a different name for it. So for example, simple. Okay, so this becomes my class simple. Okay, nothing else. If I Control S, go back inside my code, and I see there's no change here. Why? Because now I have to specify a different style. So I say paragraph dot simple, simple is simple, and then apply a simple style to it. So this color can be, for example, color can be black. Okay, and then I can say, okay, let me use font size to be, for example, previously it was big, now I want to just 14 font size to be there. And then text alignment can be, for example, left. This is the simple back, and the background color can be, for example, background can be of simple white. Okay, so I don't want anything specific. Now what I've done is I've created or told my browser that I have a paragraph tag that has a class called simple. This simple class will basically mean that in my CSS I have defined a class called simple and specified as unique attributes to it. So Control S, go back in my code, and now note this paragraph has a completely different style as compared to other paragraphs. Why? Because again, if I go back inside my code, note what we did. We gave it a class. By giving a class, we segregated this paragraph from this. We separated and we told it that this paragraph belongs to a completely different class. And then in my CSS, I use this dot operator with the class name. This dot operator is basically a connection operator telling my CSS that this paragraph having this class will be using these style. Okay, so in this case, this paragraph here is for all. So every simple paragraph tag that does not have a class will be using these attributes. So I can go here back. I can say, let's use another paragraph tag here. So let me create another paragraph tag, paragraph. So this is another paragraph tag with no class. Control S, go back here, and note this paragraph again has this blue, because we did not specify any class here. The same style has now been applied on every single paragraph tag that we create on our web page. That's the beauty of CSS. So we can have 200 paragraph tags in our page. All will have exactly same style, controlled using this simple CSS. So this is a CSS controlling the design of entire paragraph tag now. But if you want to customize it, we start using class. So we say, here's a class. So for example, in this case, I said, I don't like this. So let me give it a class, and I want to make it simple. So now I just simply use a simple class. If I go back inside my code, note this also becomes a simple. Why did that happen? Because we gave it this simple. So now every paragraph tag that has a simple class, it will have this style to it. What if I want to say, now I want this to be different? So for example, I can say this can be news. I gave it a news class. Go back inside my code, nothing happened. Okay, this changed into blue. Why I changed it to blue? Even though we said it's having a news class, because now browser went and it's looking for a news class. Where's the news class, news class, news class? There's no definition of a news class style. Okay, so there's a definition of simple class. There's a definition of a paragraph class, but there's no definition of a news class. So it said, wait a second. Because I don't have a definition of a news class, I will apply the default standard style of paragraph. Okay, got it? So you say, nah, I don't like it. So what we need to do is we need to say paragraph dot news. We're going to tell this guy, wait a second, bro, there is a separate class called this. Now it will have a separate styles. It can have a background color, for example, red. Okay, so it will have, Control Z, red as a background color. The font color will be, for example, white, and the alignment can be, for example, right, and then I can have other attributes associated with it. But for now, let's just go back here and check this out. So now it's appearing on the right alignment with white text and background. This is blue, this is black, this is red. Why? Because we have specified a class. This class is now associated with this. So this is a way of associating selectors to it. The third way is by using anonymous class. So what if I don't use this p tag here? Da-da! I deleted the p. Now it means that I have a class called dot. So this dot news now becomes a class name. By using this, we have specified that if I use any other tag, so I can use unordered list, and I can have a list items inside it, list items, and I can say use tag name as selector. I can say list item, use class for selector. Okay, I can say list item, use class name without the tag name as selector as. Okay, so now what happens? Control C, come here, it says, the text is there, we get unordered list. Wonderful, no problem with that. However, what if I give this as, yes, I give a class and I say news, Control S. Notice what happened. This tag has the same red background, white text, right alignment. How did that happen? This news was supposed to be for paragraph, and I have that news here. What happened? Because I deleted the p, now I have made this class as a general class. Now I have told this guy that there is a general class called news. It does not belong to any tag. This has become an absolute general public open class. Any tag that is going to go and use this class, you apply the same style on it. So any class, regardless of its tag name, regardless of whatever tag you're using, we can go inside our heading as well. So for example, this h3, I said, let me use a class, and I said news, bro. Then make it news as well. Come back here and notice this is also using the same thing now. That's the beauty of CSS, that now because I'm using a class as a selector, I'm telling this guy that this is what you are supposed to do. What you are supposed to apply this class style on any tag that uses this class name called news. So regardless of what class name you regardless of what tag you have, As long as you use this as a selector, this is going to be basically applying the same CSS on every single tag. So this is how we use CSS class as a tag name, as a selector. Okay, so I hope this clarifies it. We will be doing more examples of this in future as we go along, so don't worry about it. Now the next is called ID selector. I will talk this in next session. So next session, let's talk about ID as a selector.